Yo, welcome back everybody to a brand new video here on the second channel, and today we're going to look at some brand new cards that got revealed this past weekend that are going to be featured in Japan's Night Wanderer set, which actually comes out on the 7th of June, which is literally a month away from today. We got some brand new EX cards, a new A-Spec Stadium, and a brand new card that might literally be the end of the Lost Zone as we know it. It's kind of insane. I'm definitely excited to take a look at these new cards here on today's video. These new cards should be featured in our August set, after Twilight Masquerade, obviously. And I'm excited to see what else gets revealed for the August set, because there should be some big cards getting revealed. Of course, the Night Wanderer set is going to come out on June 7th, and then Japan's going to get another set, Stellar Miracle, which is going to feature Stellar Terra Pokemon EX, which is going to be pretty exciting. So that will definitely be an interesting development. If y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 14,000 subs here, and if you go on to enjoy the video, leave a like, and let me know what you think of these new cards down in the comments below. I'll leave a link to PokeBeach, the site I'm using for today's video, if you want to look at these cards for yourself. So, starting things off, we do have the brand new Okidogi EX. Now, this thing, first thing that stands out to me is that it has 250 HP on a basic Pokemon. That is really, really big. 250 HP is a lot of health. Of course, if you were to put a Bravery Charm on it, this thing has 300 HP for a basic Pokemon. So that's pretty tanky, and it does have two different attacks. The first attack, Poison Muscle, for 1 colorless energy, allows you to search your deck for 2 dark Pokemon, or 2 dark energy, sorry, and put them on this Pokemon, and then shuffle your deck, and if you attach any energy in this way, this Pokemon is now poisoned. So, you do get to put 2 dark energy onto your Okidogi, but then you have to poison yourself. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, that's because of its other attack, Crazy Chain, which for 2 dark and a colorless, does 130 damage, and if this Pokemon is poisoned, you get to do 130 more damage. So, you get to do 260 damage in total, which is pretty good. I mean, 260 damage is quite a bit of damage to do. Now, even if you're not using the first attack to power up your Okidogi, it is a dark Pokemon, so you can play it with Dark Patch. And if you want to poison yourself, you can also use Brute Bonnet and Ancient Booster Capsule to poison your own Okidogi, allowing you to do 260 damage fairly easily. And like I said, this card is really bulky. Having 250 HP is quite a bit of health to have. You have a pretty hard hitting attack. Now, you can play that with Radiant Sneasler and Perilous Jungle, which allows you to apply even more poison damage to your opponent's Pokemon, which is really, really good. So there are a lot of different combos you can play this card with. It seems like it's a pretty strong beat stick card, and having a lot of HP definitely does help its case quite a bit. Again, having 250 HP does make it very, very powerful. Also doing 260. I mean, even with 260 damage, even if you're using like a little bit of extra poison modifier like Sneasler or Perilous Jungle, you can actually still even KO stuff like Pidgeot EX and other V-Star Pokemon. So definitely seems this card is very, very powerful with that Crazy Chain attack doing some pretty big damage. Now, we got another new EX here. We got the new Monkey Dory EX. Now, Monkey Dory is actually making some pretty big waves in Japan right now. It actually had a bit of a showing this weekend at the Champions League, which hopefully we'll look at the Champions League results very soon here on the second channel once we get to see more of the deck list. But Monkey Dory EX does have the ability Skip a Beat if this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack. While you have a Peturant EX in play, your opponent takes one last prize card. So, basically, if that other EX card is in play and this card gets knocked out, you only give up one prize card, which ain't too shabby. I mean, giving up one prize card on a big basic like this isn't bad. I think if you were to play this with Legacy Energy too, I think you would give up no energy or no prizes at all, which is kind of crazy. So, potentially not giving up any prize cards with Legacy Energy could be kind of deadly, not going to lie. Now, this card does have the attack at Dirty Headbutt, which for 2 dark and a colorless does 190 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon can't use Dirty Headbutt. I mean, it's fine. 190 damage isn't bad numbers, I guess. You can play that with Maxim Belt to knock out basic EXs. You could play that with Defiance Band or whatever. It's like an okay attack. You can obviously build it up with Dark Patch. I think the main thing about this card that does make it, playable at all is that ability, Skip a Beat, where, of course, it does have the potential to not give up an extra prize card, which is good. Being able to only give up one prize card is nice, and that could be what makes this card strong, but we'll have to see on that. Next up, we got another new EX here. We got the brand new Pheasant Dippity EX. I hope I said that correctly, dude. These names are getting out of control, bro. Now, it is another dark basic EX Pokemon with the ability Take Advantage. If one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn, you may draw 3 cards. You can't use any more of one of these abilities per turn. So, this is actually a pretty good reprint of Oricorio GX from back in the day. Now, Oricorio GX actually did see a decent bit of play when it was legal. It had the exact same ability where if one of your Pokemon gets knocked out, you can use the ability and then draw 3 cards during your turn, which was really good. Oricorio GX was a fairly strong card that quite a few decks ended up using. Like Blacephalon played it. I think even at a point, stuff like ADP played it. Yeah, Oricorio GX having like a soft reprint is pretty cool, I'm not going to lie. Now, it does have the attack Cruel Arrow, which for 3 colorless energy does 100 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And that's it. Just does flat out 100 damage. So this card, if it ever sees play, it'll mainly be because of its ability. Now, to be fair, we are in a bit of a different era of the TCG than where we were back in 2020/2019 when Oricorio GX was seeing a lot of play. We are in a bit of a different time where, this ability, while it is very strong, and I do think a lot of decks can really take advantage of it, it is a bit of a liability to have him play. That was the other issue with Oricorio GX. Oricorio GX was a very strong card, but it was a liability at the same time. It was like having a Dedenne GX in play. Or in this case, it'd be like having a Squawkabilly or a Luminion on your bench. It's a support Pokemon that will help you out, but in the end, it might end up costing you a couple prizes at the end of the game, which might lose you the game. Now, thankfully, it does have 210 HP, so thankfully this card does have a little bit more HP than, Oricorio had. I think Oricorio had like 160, 170 HP or something like that. Where this card only has 210. So it's a little more bulkier, which is nice. We'll have to see if this card sees any play. The ability is really strong, so I'm sure at some point in the TCG, this card could be good. Maybe when Charizard rotates. I feel like this card won't be very good when Charizard exists, because Charizard will easily just boss this thing up and knock it out for like an easy knockout. So we'll have to see on that. But I do think this card is nice, and having an Oricorio reprint is really cool to have in the format. Now here is the brand new EX card, the Petrarun EX, which does go nicely with the Munkidori EX we looked at. It does have the ability Chain of Command. Once during your turn, you may switch one of your bench Dark Pokemon, excluding any Perchant EX, with your active Pokemon. If you do, your new active Pokemon is now poisoned. So basically, you get to switch one of your Dark Pokemon to the active, but then they have to get poisoned. So this could be good with the Okidogi EX. Now, obviously, I said earlier that Brute Bonnet might be the better way to poison it, and maybe this ability is also going to be a good way to poison it. Now, keep in mind, this is very similar, actually, to something like the, switch effects we've seen with, like, Keldeo EX and Dawnwings and Necrozma, where you can, like, kind of pivot them in and out of the active. But then you have the ability, or the attack, Irritating Burst, which for 2 Dark Energy does 60 damage. It does 60 damage times the number of prize cards your opponent has taken. So this card could be a little bit stronger in the late game. If your opponent takes 3 prizes, you're doing 2 for 180, right? 4 prizes, 240. I mean, that most of this thing can do 300 damage if your opponent does take all 5 prizes, right? Which is kind of cool. But other than that, this card is like okay. It's got a decent ability where you can switch your bench Pokemon, but they have to be dark types. It's not specifically any type, which is kind of the bummer with this card. If this was like any type, that would be a little bit better. But I don't know, it could be okay. It does combine with the Munkidori EX, keep in mind. So if you want to play a Munkidori EX deck, you probably need to play this in your deck because you want to make sure that your Munkidori only gives up the 1 prize card when it gets knocked out. Now here's where things get wild. So remember how I said this might be the death of Lost Box? And this Kyurem is literally the biggest Lost Box hater on the planet. So it's got the ability Anti-Plasma. If your opponent has a card with Colress in its name in their discard pile, the attack cost of this Pokemon's Trifrost attack is 1 colorless instead. That is insane. Now, its attack does require 5 energy, but with that ability, it only requires 1 energy, and it does 10 damage to 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. You do have to discard all the energy on it, but when you're using it for a single colorless energy, who really cares? Like, you're not going to be playing this card by itself with, like, Baxcalibur or whatever, because it's a little too clunky. I mean, you need 2 waters, 2 metals. You're mostly going to use it just as a way to counter Lost Box. Now, the scary thing with this card is you can play it in any deck, and you don't even have to reveal that you play it. So that's where things get scary. So if your opponent is playing a Lost Zone deck, and your opponent, because there is a way to counter this, right? You can put a Manaphy in play, and then all of a sudden this Kyurem cannot take out, potentially like 2-3 Comfeys, 2 Comfeys and a Cramorant. They can't do that if there's a Manaphy in play, right? So the scary thing about this card is it's splashable in any deck. The fact that it requires a colorless energy is kind of insane. It's not specifically a water. It's not specifically 1 metal. It's just flat out 1 colorless energy, meaning that if you really wanted to, if your deck, for whatever reason, can't beat Lost Box, you can just throw a Kyurem in your deck now and just out of nowhere attack your opponent if they don't go Manaphy. Like, if I'm Buddy Poffing out Comfeys and I'm not getting Manaphy, and all of a sudden this Kyurem comes down on the second turn and takes 3 prizes on, like, 2 Comfeys and a Cramorant, the game, like, almost ends on the spot. Like, taking 3 prizes immediately is insane. So this card is very, very scary. Now, to be fair, the Lost Zone deck does need to play a Colress first, The thing with Lost Zone, though, is they have to play Colress in order for their deck to function. Like, they kind of have to do Colress's experiment, so you can just kind of sit on the Kyurem for a little bit, and then eventually, when your opponent plays Colress, you know, all of a sudden the Trifoss attack does it for 1 energy. Now, I don't know why they had to print this insanely dumb counter to Lost Box. I mean, to be fair, Lost Box already got nerfed by Jirachi getting printed. I think Jirachi was already a pretty good counter to Lost Box. I would argue Lost Box's main issue with why that deck was, I mean, it wasn't toxic, but what made the Lost Zone deck annoying to play against was Sableye. I think Sableye was the real problem in Lost Zone. But now Pokemon have printed a counter to Sableye. Sableye is no longer that bad of a card as long as you put a Jirachi in your deck. For whatever reason, if your deck struggles against Sableye, literally just put a Jirachi in your deck, and all of a sudden, you have a fighting chance against Lost Box now. I don't know why they had to print Kyurem, where all of a sudden this Kyurem completely destroys Lost Zone. Now, of course, maybe going forward, Lost Box has to play Manaphy now, and no matter what, you have to put a Manaphy in play. It really will depend on the popularity of Lost Box. Like, right now in our current format, if this card was around, I would probably play it because Lost Zone is a pretty popular archetype right now. We have Tina and we have Lost Box, which are both popular decks. So there is a reason to actually play this card in our meta right now, and this will come out in August. I'm not sure Lost Box is going to be that popular, considering Dragapult EX, so we'll have to see on that, but it's kind of crazy Pokemon printed this insanely dumb Lost Zone counter. Look, Lost Zone is not the real issue with this format here, Pokemon. The real issue is a certain Dragon EX Lizard that is a little too broken, and then potentially even another Dragon, well, literally a Dragon-type Lizard monster thing. That might also be another issue. Pokemon are not printing and playing around the real problems in our format. Now, it's just a crazy card. Now, this does mean we're getting a new Colress in this set. This card was printed mainly because we are getting a new Colress, not because this card was literally just printed last minute to beat Lost Box. I mean, Lost Zone is going to be rotating next year anyways, when this card really, it's only going to exist for a little bit. So why would Pokemon do that? Well, that's because we are getting a brand new Colress supporter card in this set. That's supposed to be what this card is good against, not actually Lost Zone, but it's funny, Lost Zone gets caught in the crossfire. Got a brand new tool card here. We got the Blinding Mochi tool card. The attacks of the poison Pokemon this card is attached to do 40 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, remember earlier when I said that Okidogi does 260 damage with the Perilous Jungle, the Sneasler, you're hitting some pretty high numbers. Well, now we have the Binding Mochi tool card, which can make it do 40 more damage. Now, all of a sudden, this thing does 300 damage with its poison hit attack. So, Okidogi, with this Binding Mochi card, does look really, really strong. You can put this on any Pokemon for the record. Like, any Pokemon that you can poison with, like, Root Bonnet or whatever, can play this card, and then all of a sudden, they're doing 40 more damage. And 40 more damage is a lot of damage to do. Obviously, we've had cards in the past like Choice Belt, we have Defiance Band, we've had Muscle Band, but doing 40 more damage is a lot of damage. That's almost as strong as Maximum Belt, keep in mind. So that's really, really good. So who knows, this new, like, poison yourself meta actually might be becoming a thing now, thanks to stuff like the Binding Mochi. Making your Pokemon do 40 more damage is quite a lot of damage to do, so definitely could be something cooking here with the Binding Mochi. Now, here's the brand new supporter Colress card that's, I guess, supposed to be what Kyurem is kind of going to counter. We'll have to see if there's any more cards that come out that synergize with Colress, but it does have that effect. You can search your deck for a Stadium and an Energy and reveal them and put them in your hand. So it's obviously not as good as Colress Experiment, but being able to find a Stadium card and an Energy card isn't too shabby, to be honest with you. I mean, we are in a meta right now where stadiums aren't, like, insanely relevant. There is a new stadium we're going to look at in a minute. I don't think there's any crazy stadiums in Twilight Masquerade that's coming out. I know there's that new Tool jamming stadium. That could see some play. This card would have been kind of insane if Path still existed, for the record, but honestly, it's not a bad card. You also get to get an Energy card. Now, it specifically says an Energy. It doesn't say basic Energy or anything, so you can grab something like a Double Turbo, or you could even grab a Neo Upper Energy. This card could see play within a deck like Dragapult EX. Dragapult EX is looking really promising in our next set, Twilight Masquerade, potentially going to be the new BDIF, but you know, part of that deck is building up the Dragapult, which requires 2 different energy types, so maybe the best way to power up that Dragapult is going to be to, like, you know, get Neo Up Energy onto the Dragapult so you can attack for the 1 energy, and maybe playing Colress is going to be nice. So definitely could be some niche uses for this card. It's not as good as, like, Colress Experiment. I'm not even sure what decks are even going to play it right off the bat, but it definitely does look decent. And with that Kyurem being printed, that tells me there might be another card that comes out that's going to synergize with Colress effects too. Now, here's the brand new A-Spec Stadium. Now, I've been talking about getting an A-Spec Stadium for a while now, so it looks like I predicted it correctly. Now, it is a stadium, obviously, and you can prevent all damage done to the Pokemon that don't have any rule boxes by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX and Pokemon V. And then it says, if this card is in your discard pile, it can't be put into your deck or hand. So basically, once this card is used, it's no longer able to be put back into play. It's basically what it says. So it's a one-time use stadium card. And that does make sense. It is an A-spec card with a powerful effect, so it makes sense you can't get it back. There are ways you could theoretically put this card back into your hand, which is probably why they had to print that ruling on it, which, makes sense. That does make it a little bit more balanced. So yeah, prevent all damage done to the Pokemon that don't have any rule boxes by attacks from EXs and Vs. That's pretty good. That's basically going to give you a free Mimikyu effect on your Pokemon. Now, to be fair, this card, it looks like can get removed by, Lost Vacuum, which still will see a little bit of play. Obviously, Counter Stadiums could be a big deal. Now, if this card ever sees any play, or makes a big impact on the meta, I'm sure this card will most likely see play. If this card does make an impact on the meta, then I think the Stadium Wars will come back into full swing. Now, to be fair, this card does get hard countered by Lost Vacuum at the moment, and any deck that plays Arven can find Lost Vacuum, so it kind of makes it really easy to get Lost Vacuum into play, so you can immediately remove this card if it ever becomes a problem. And it really only works on your opponent's turn, basically, right? So that means your opponent has an entire turn to try to remove the Stadium. It's not like you do use it on your turn and then you get the value. You only get value out of this card when your opponent is doing their turn, right? So I'm not sure this card is like fantastic. It is an A-spec, and keep in mind this is the A-spec you would have to play in your deck over Prime Catcher, Unfair Stamp, Legacy Energy, whatever, A-spec you want to play. So definitely could be an interesting card. I'm not sure how good it'll be at the moment. I think Lost Vacuum's presence probably is what holds it back, because honestly, the Stadium War is looking a little thin right now. I mean, there's like Artisan, Temple of Sinnoh, Collapse Stadium. Those are like the big three stadiums right now, the big three. So we'll have to see if this card actually ends up seeing any play when it comes out in August. And there also could be more new A-specs in this brand new set anyways, which might just make this card not very good anyways. Like, we might get like 2 new A-specs revealed, and all of a sudden those new A-specs are Prime Catcher levels was good, and then, oh, look at that, this new neutral center kind of sucks. So we'll have to see on that one. I think that was all of the brand new cards revealed. Yeah, that was it for all of the brand new cards. Again, some brand new EXs. I think the best one, obviously, was the Okidogi. This definitely is the best new EX that did get revealed. This card is very, very strong. And, of course, with the poison effects of Sneasler, Brute Bonnet to poison yourself, and even using the Perilous Jungle Stadium card, on top of the fact that we got that new Tool card, this card is doing some pretty insane damage. I think it's actually, with the right amount of modifiers, is going to be one-hit KOing Charizard EX, which is insane. And, of course, being a Dark Pokemon means you can play it with Dark Patch, which is really, really strong. So we'll have to see on that one. I do like the other EX here, the Oricorio GX reprint card. Oricorio GX was a good card, and this card will definitely follow suit in Oricorio GX's way. And then, of course, this new Kyurem just being a really good anti-Lost Zone card. It's a little ridiculous. I don't know why Pokemon had to print this Lost Zone anti-card. They could have printed this, like, before. I don't know why they had to give it to us now. There should be a card where it says anti-Charizard. If your opponent has a Charizard EX in play, this Pokemon doesn't need any energy to KO a Charizard EX and whatever. That's what they should have printed, not Kyurem. What did Lost Box ever do? Yo, leave Lost Zone alone. It's already dealing with enough pressure in the format with Jirachi and Iono. It is what it is. Let me know what you think of these new cards down in the comments below. What's your favorite new card? What do you think of the new Kyurem? What do you think of the new Stadium A-spec? And what do you think of these brand new EXs that got revealed? We might get some more new EX cards. There's some more new Poison support cards. That seems to be like a little theme going on with this new set. So maybe we'll see some more like Poison-y control cards in this set that will get revealed over time too. Thanks for watching. Y'all enjoyed the video. Leave a like. If you're new to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below and help me on the road to reaching 14K subs. I'll leave a link to PokeBeach once again in the description if you want to go look at these new cards for yourself. And that'll be for me. Hope you all have a good day, and bye-bye.